Hi people, my lights in the back, as you can see, they're dead. If you didn't notice in the last video, I think in the last video they were like falling from the wall. We can't have that. But today's a very special video, I guess, because today is dedicated to all my European, I was about to say chatters, but I'm not on Twitch. All my European peoples out there, okay? You got your Italians, you got your Englands, your Oibruvs, you got the French. Yes, today is dedicated to you because you see, you guys have an issue right now, okay? It's going bad in your continent. Your continent is on fire. You guys need a little bit of help, and you may be like, girl, who are you to talk? Like, you're in America, but it's not about me, it's about you. It's about you, okay? You guys on this channel rarely ever get your time in the shine, your time in the sun, but today's that day, because you see, this summer has been a summer of elections in Europe, or just election season across the western part of the world, you know? So UK had their election back on the 4th of July, interesting date to pick. France on the 7th. Austria will also be having a election in September. So it's just election season across Europe. But you see, the far right has been growing throughout Europe for the past few years. There's a political map that shows just how much the far right is reaching in Europe, and it's quite concerning. They have already won in a lot of these areas and are projected to win even more, especially after Meloni's win in Italy. What could this mean for the future of Europe? But before we get into any of that, subscribe. I have TikTok, I have Patreon, Instagram, exclusive content on all of those platforms. Now we even have a Discord, so if you want to be even more a part of the community, you can join the Discord. It's linked down in the description, as well as every other link that I just mentioned. So Italy's far right escapades, you know, I mean, Italy actually has a history of far right extremism with like Mussolini, but its recent escapade began with Giorgia Meloni, as I stated, and the Brothers of Italy. A good chunk of them won the parliament, as well as, of course, the prime ministership. And the Brothers of Italy's amount in the parliament surged from 4 to 26% since 2018. That's concerning. What's going on? What's going on? Giorgia Meloni became the prime minister just 2 years ago in 2022 as well. So for the past 6 years, I'm bad at math, the far right has been growing, and they have a pretty interesting strategy compared to their history, and how they campaigned and, I guess, communicate their ideas is the best way to put it. So Meloni, I feel like, really has surged in popularity because she presents herself as more moderate. You know, she says that she likes family values. She says that she, you know, is a mother and a wife. You know, she appeals to the regular sensibilities of what, you know, people may naturally care about. But it's also hiding a sinister truth that her party is very hard on immigrants, similar to the Republicans in America, very violent, very, dare I say, fascist towards, you know, when it comes to immigration. And she also has tried to have like more moderate, I guess, policies like sanctions on Russia. She also doesn't want to leave the EU, maybe because she saw how that worked out for the UK, and she was like, maybe we don't do that. I don't know. Her party still does have ties to Mussolini, or in just Giorgia Meloni in general also has ties to Mussolini. At 19, campaigning for the far-right National Alliance, she told French television that Mussolini was a good politician and that everything he did for Italy. A little weird, like, calm the freak down. She has refused calls to change the logo, insisting the flame has nothing to do with fascism, and blaming talk to the contrary on the left. So she herself has it's very obvious that she hasn't distanced herself from these ideologies with her thoughts on immigration and other policies. Okay, this is editing essence here. I feel like I didn't make Meloni's position's very clear outside of her anti-immigrant stance. Like, I don't think I made it very clear how far right she is. Like I said, she tries to frame her conservative values around being a mother, being a part of the family, but that is very exclusionary towards queer people. She opposes same-sex marriage, same-sex parenting. Is not something that she's very on board with. Is of course a very far-right position, because even a lot of conservative people worldwide at this point don't care as much about that. I mean, of course, unless they're like really far to the right is the only time usually that's that big of a deal. Most people aren't really thinking about queer people getting married. Her government in general has just been described as the first hard right government since Mussolini, once again since World War II, which I also didn't describe why Mussolini is such a bad person. If you don't know about him, he was not only aligned with Hitler in World War II in the Axis powers, but also participated in war crimes and just terrible atrocities in Ethiopia, for example, where he used mustard gas, bombed hospitals, did massacres. I mean, he just did some terrible things. So that is what she's coming on the heels of. That is what she in the past has praised and said everything he did for Italy. That is why Giorgia Meloni being in office is such a concerning thing. Hopefully that clears that up. Next, we have the UK. Like I said, they had their election on the 4th. Just like on that fateful day 200 years ago, the country has been taking major L's, okay? For the past 14 years, the Tory party has been in control, and their leadership has brought the demise of the country, from the Brexit movement to tax cuts for the wealthy to failed leadership after failed leadership. UK can just not stop taking L's. This last election, though, was actually won by the Labour Party, which is supposed to be, of course, the more progressive party. But their leader and the person who won the prime ministership, Keir Starmer, has kind of turned it into a more like liberal party at this point. I mean, it's called literally the Labour Party. Like, that is very clearly sending a message that they're supposed to be a lot further to the left, right? I would think. You know, unionizing, workers' rights, you know, that's a very like leftist adjacent thing, right? But Keir Starmer has used the failure of his Tory counterparts to go back on his promises and shift to the right. According to The Guardian, this shift to the right and insufficiently covering topics like Gaza, the housing crisis, and other issues lost the left's support, especially when compared to Corbyn's numbers in 2017. So Keir Starmer, or just the Labour Party in general, could have had even, it seems, wider margins of success if he didn't lean to the right so much. And I think that's why a good amount of like leftist commentators online, at least from what I've seen, aren't a big fan of his, because he has, like I said, turned this party that is supposed to be a lot more left adjacent into a very liberal party at this point, which is concerning. And it's not fair to the people of the UK, who obviously, you know, have a good enough left constituency that they just, it seems, didn't vote for him. But the more alarming factor than Keir Starmer shifting to the right is the Reform Party, which has been gaining traction. Now, I'm not super well versed in UK politics or just foreign politics in general, but from my understanding, the Reform is even further to the right than the Tories, which is so odd to me, because when I first heard the word Reform, I was like, are they the leftists? Like, are they even farther to the left than the Labour Party? No, they're not. They won 4 parliamentary seats, including one for their leader, Nigel Farage. Excuse me if I said his name wrong. This comes as a major surprise, since in the past they have won, at times, no seats at all. They were born out of the Brexit Party, which calls for no deal Brexit from 2016 to 2021. And they are just this insanely fascist, racist party that has a very hardline stance, similar to Giorgia Meloni, on immigration. And during the pandemic was heavily against lockdowns and just any precautions when it comes to COVID-19. The Brexit decision, for what I could gather, was mostly a way to put the problems of the UK on the EU. It's a classic, you know, right-wing move where instead of actually solving the issues, they just like put them on brown people or someone else, which in turn makes the situation worse because you didn't solve the issue. It caused the UK's economy to tank, reducing the amount of jobs and the amount of money in citizens' pockets. It seems like it's not the immigrants that are taking your jobs, but the politicians you elected? Maybe, I don't know. And we're already seeing the repercussions of the reform ideology. Recently, there was murders in Southport where 3 little girls were stabbed at I think it was like a Taylor Swift dance class. And far-right extremists use the attacks as an excuse to fuel anti-Muslim, anti-immigrant hate. False rumors spread that the suspect was a Muslim immigrant, but he was actually born in Wales to Rwandan Christian parents. But it was too late. The rumors had already, you know, infested people's minds, or they didn't, and like I said, they just kind of used it as an excuse to attack Muslims, brown people, black people. Storefronts owned by Muslims were being defaced and destroyed. They tried desperately to go inside of a hotel with asylum seekers to, we can only assume, kill them. And when they couldn't get inside, they instead set a trash can on fire and then put it in the window of the hotel. It was a whole riot that took place where far-right extremists were just tearing up the place in response to these murders. I mean, obviously at its face, this is just plain racism. You know, they just don't like brown people. But let's take a step back. Even if the dude was Muslim, do you think it's like better somehow for you to then try and kill? I don't know. It'll never make sense to me, but I think that's a good thing. But it's definitely something to keep track of over the coming years. I mean, like I said, I feel like we already see how it's playing out with these recent riots. The Labour Party could keep winning, or the right might gain control once again. Last one is France. They just had an election on July 7th, and it was a fight between the Socialist Party and the far right. The New Popular Front, or NFP, is made up of 5 leftist parties. They formed about a month ago to block the far right from power, and were projected to win 171 to 182 seats, which is not a majority. So Parliament in France will probably be contentious since there are so many different parties. I'm kind of jealous. Like, I wish, you know, maybe in America we could have a socialist win anything, you know, that'd be really cool. The NR, or the far right party, has won more seats than ever before though. The anti-immigrant Eurosceptic RN ran on a platform that promised to put France back on its feet by giving French citizens national preference over immigrants for jobs and housing, while abolishing the right to automatic French citizenship for children of foreign parents. In 2017, it's very similar to the Reform Party and also Giorgia Meloni's party. They really didn't have that many seats back in 2017, only about 8. And then in 2022, 89, and now projected 152. So they have grown immensely over these past few elections. Marine Le Pen was their like main star of the party. If you are, you know anything about French politics, she's the one that you see the most. Her father initially led the party until 2011, and he was just a straight Nazi. Like, everyone knows he was a Nazi. She recognized the unappealing nature, however, of how he once again communicated his ideas, and gained popularity by posturing as more moderate. So that seems, there's some obviously themes. I mean, they're all the same ideology, so it makes sense that they kind of use the same tactics or have the same policy ideas, you know, with the immigration, hating brown people, you know. But now they found this like way to present as more moderate and gain popularity that way without people recognizing that they're absolutely crazy. What's also very concerning is that both the leftist party and the RN are popular among younger voters, which is very alarming because normally with more right-leaning parties, you'll see older people be more attracted to that. But that's not the case with this. It seems like younger voters like both of these parties. So is that a sign if the youth are on board with this messaging in France? Is that a sign that this could lead to the RN actually winning the prime ministership? Once again, something to look out for. But we have overall just seen a rise of fascism globally. It's alarming to see this type of movement, especially in Europe, which I feel like is hailed as having some of the most socialized policies worldwide. I mean, in my Drum Island video, we did already cover that a lot of the socialized healthcare is already being eroded there by lobbyists and by the far right. So it makes sense, right? But it is so alarming to see, like, if Europe doesn't have this, then how? I feel like it's good sometimes to have an example of like what we, especially in America, like could strive towards. But if that's being eroded even there, then what the frick did we do, girl? They're hailed as having better prisons, housing initiatives, especially in places like Finland. But with austerity measures and privatization of these industries, we will slowly see any semblance of left-adjacent policies wiped out and the right will rise. I like to end these videos on like what we should do, how do we like fix this, but I'm just a girl. I'm just a girl who yaps, okay? It just feels at this point inevitable. All I can say is educate yourself. I mean, you're doing a great thing right now by watching me. Educate yourself and the people around you. Unionize your workplace, organize, speak out. I mean, we've seen even with protesting efforts in America towards Palestine, you know, we've seen that doing those very things. Speaking out, protesting, calling your representatives. I don't know if you can do that in Europe, I assume you can. But we've seen that those things actually have helped the attitude towards Palestine. So obviously, it can work in other areas. So just do what you can and do your best to fight against this movement towards the right. But that's all for me today, and I will see you in the next one. Okay, bye!